Welcome back everyone to Microsoft Access 2013. We're working in Tutorial 9, which is over using action queries and advanced table relationships. And our objectives during this chapter or this tutorial, is to create an action query to create a table, and then we're going to create action queries to append, delete, and update data, all in session 9.1 of Tutorial 9. Once we've completed that, then we'll be moving on to session 9.2 with the following objectives. We're going to define many-to-many and one-to-one relationships between tables. We've experienced this a little bit before in earlier tutorials, but we're going to go a little bit further into it. Next, we're going to learn about joining tables. Then we're going to join a table using a self-join, and we review and create indexes for tables to complete our Tutorial 9. Once again, as we're working here in Tutorial 9, we will be working with the Chatham Community Health Services case, so we'll continue to work in that database. Let's go ahead and take a look at our steps now as to what we're going to be working on with our Chatham database. Here are the steps we're going to use to create and run the select query based on the tblPatient table. Let's take a look at these 10 instructions now. You'll see we have figure 9-1 to keep us on pace, make sure we're doing the right steps here. So here's the last step. We're going to run the query. Let's go ahead and take a look at the select query here. You can see what table we're working with. You can see the fields we're going to be working with and the criteria that we're going to put into here in our select query. Let's go ahead and jump back into our Chatham database and complete these steps. Now to start out with, we will be using the health database, and so we want to make sure we have our data files open. So we'll go ahead and check our data files for text. We are working in Access 3. We are doing the tutorial for Tutorial 9. And there we have our health database. So we'll go ahead and open that and start completing the steps to create and run the select query. Now that we have the health database open and we clicked on the Enable Content button that you seem to always get if you haven't taken care of that issue yet, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on the File tab. And this will display our Backstage view once again. And we're going to click in the Options in the navigation bar. This may feel familiar because we've done it before, but we're going to go ahead and change our Trust Center settings. So we're going to go ahead and click Trust Center. Then we're going to click Trust Center Settings. Let's click on the Trusted Locations. Now we're going to go ahead and click Add New Location. Now you may already see that you've done this once before, but we're just doing it again. So we're going to go ahead and browse to the location that our student data files are located. Let's go ahead and click on the tutorial folder here. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. And you can see that path is there. Let's go ahead and hit OK again. And now we have added that location to Trust so that hopefully we won't get the Enable Content button again the next time. So we'll go ahead and hit OK one more time. And let's close our navigation pane. Alright, so let's go to our navigation pane. Let's click on the Create tab. We're going to go here to the Queries group. And let's go ahead and select Query Design. And we should get our Show Table dialog box, and once that opens up, we'll see here we are in the Design view. Go ahead and pull that up. Next, let's go ahead and click the table that we want to use here as we're designing our query. So we're going to click the patient table. Let's hit the add button. And you can see that that's been added here for us to develop our query around. We'll go ahead and hit close so that we can close our show table dialog box. Now what we should have left is our tblPatient table field being displayed here. So let's go ahead and maximize that so we can see all of our available fields. Now we're going to pick which fields we want to build that query around from our patient table. So we're going to go ahead and double click on those field names now. Let's go ahead and double click on first name, as well as last name, parent, phone, city, and then lastly we're going to select email address. So you should have all those fields listed down here. And once you verify that all 6 fields are available there in your design grid, we're going to go ahead and enter the city field selection criteria of Windsor. Let's go ahead in the city criteria box. Just type the word Windsor. And we'll press the tab key to make that entry permanent. You can see how it puts the quotes around it because it is text. If you recall from figure 9-1 that we showed earlier, we have the same setup that was in that figure. So we can move on. We're going to go ahead and run our query. And our query record set should show that there are 10 records for the Windsor patients. And as you can see, that is exactly how many we came up with. So we have completed this portion of creating and running our select query based on the patient table, and we are correct so far. We'll next move into changing the query type and then run and save the make table query. Okay guys, now that we have verified that we have the records that we need to make our make table query, we're going to go ahead and look at those steps now. And we're going to change the query to a make table query. Here are the steps we're going to complete. And now that you've looked over those steps, we're going to go ahead and return to our database and switch to design view. Alright, let's go ahead and switch to design view, whichever method you feel most comfortable with. Now once you're in design view, let's go ahead and get on up here in our design tab. We're going to go in the query type group, and we're then going to click on the make table button. And you can see that the little tip that comes up, the query type make table, make the query select records from the database and save the records as a new table. So let's go ahead and click that now. You'll see that the make table dialog box pops up. So let's go ahead inside the make table dialog box, go to the table name box, and you can see my cursor is already hovering there. Let's go ahead and put in the name table contact patient. And make sure that the current database option button is selected so that the new table will be added to the health database. Once you've made sure of that, go ahead and click the OK button. Now let's go ahead and run our query. And a dialog box opens up indicating that you're about to paste 10 rows into a new table. You can see that there. Because you're running an action query that alters the contents of the database, you have the opportunity to cancel the operation if necessary or to confirm it. Let's go ahead and click on the Yes button, because we are definitely sure we want to create the new table. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. And you can see our query is still being displayed here in the design view. Let's go ahead and save our query because we haven't saved our query yet. That's why it's been given the standard name of query 1. And the name that we want to give our new query is Query Contact Patient Make Table. I know that's a really long name. So let's go ahead and save the query as that. We'll get our new query name, Query Contact Patient Make Table. Once you've got that typed in, go ahead and hit OK. Let's go ahead and close our query, and we should see it in the navigation pane now. And you can see here now that because we did a make table query that we have a new icon that we haven't seen before, and that's the make table query icon. Now that we've verified that, let's go ahead and open our contact patient table to view the results of the make table query. So go ahead and find the table contact patient here. And let's go ahead and open that. As always, let's go ahead and look through all of our columns to make sure that they're set for best fit. You can already see that our email address needs adjusted. There we go. We'll go ahead and select the first cell here in first name. Now you can see that our table contact patient includes the first name, last name, parent, phone, city, and email address fields for patients who live in Windsor, as we expected. Make table queries do not transfer caption property settings to the created tables. So the table contact patient table also does not include formatting for the phone number, as you can see here. Other field properties that do not transfer include like decimal places, default values that were originally set, format, input mask, any type of validation rules or validation text that was created. So just something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and save our datasheet changes, and then let's close this table. That's all for the steps to change the query type and then run and save the make table query. The next section we're going to get into is to create the append query. Now we're ready to create the query contact patient append query. To create the append query, you'll use to include the additional customer data for our Chatham database that our customer wanted in the contact patient table. So here are the steps we're going to go through to create the append query. Now let's jump back into our database and start working with creating our append query, starting with using the table patient once again, once we do our query design. We're going to go ahead and close our navigation pane once again. Then we'll go up to the Create tab. Then in the Queries group, we're going to click the Query Design button. We want to select the patient table, click the Add button. Now that we've added that, let's go ahead and close our Show Table dialog box. And we will expand our little window here so we can see all of our available fields. And let's go ahead and make sure we select the fields we want to be displayed. Let's go ahead and we're going to select first name, last name, parent, phone, city, and we will click email once again. Now that we've got those 6 fields there, let's go ahead and take a look at your grid just to make sure that all 6 are shown. Let's go down to the city criteria box here. We're going to type in Bloomfield and hit the tab key so that takes and accepts it as text. Now at this point in our query, before we can run the query to append the records to the contact patient table, we have to change the query type to an append query. It's always a good idea to test an action query before you run it. So you will first run this select query to make sure the correct records are selected. Then we will change the query type to an append query and run it to append the new records to the table contact patient table. Let's go ahead and do that now. So here on the design tab in the query type group, we're going to click the select button and then run the query. Now we should see 7 records. So the query record set shows the 7 records for patients who live in Bloomfield. So we know our query works. So let's go ahead and switch back to design view. And once you're in design view, go on the design tab in the query type group and you're going to click the append button as you see here. Make the query as record to an existing table. So go ahead and open that so you can, or click that so you can open up the append dialog box. And we are going, the name we're going to give this is contact patient or table contact patient. There we go, get that entered, and we want to make sure that the current database option is selected, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. Instantly you can see we have a change down here in our grid. We no longer have the show row, now we have the append to row. And that'll complete our steps for creating our append query. In the next section, we are going to run and save our append query that we've created. Here are the steps to run and save the append query we just created. There are 5 steps to this portion, so we'll go ahead and complete those now. Picking up in our database where we left off, we're going to go ahead and run our query now. And you'll see the access pops up a dialog box warning us that we are about to append the 7 rows. We know that, so let's go ahead and click yes. Now let's go ahead and save our query as query contact patient append. Enter the name here. Once you've got your query name created, go ahead and hit OK. Let's go ahead and close this query and reopen our navigation pane. Let's go ahead and open the table contact patient. And we are going to click the row's first name field value to select all of our other values that might be selected here. As you can see down here, the new records have all been added to the contact patient table. Because the contact patient table doesn't have a primary key set, the new records appear at the end of our table. Go ahead and save your changes to the table, then close the table, and then close the navigation pane as we've completed all of our steps for running and saving our append query. Next we're going to move into creating the delete query. Let's go ahead and take a look at those steps so that we can set up our delete query to delete some of the patient records that our customer wanted us to get rid of. So we're going to use that query to get that taken care of for our customer. Here are the 10 steps that we are going to use to create our delete query. I'm going to take a look at those now. And you can see that 10 records are to be deleted. And then after deleting the records, this is what we should end up with. And you can see that we have another icon that will be introduced to, and that is the delete query icon once we create that query. So let's go ahead and jump back into our database and complete these steps now. Let's go ahead and click on the Create tab. Then in our Queries group, click the Query Design button. Let's add the contact patient table this time. And we're going to go ahead and close. We're going to resize so we can see all of our available fields as always. Now let's go ahead and go up here, and on the title bar of our field list, let's go ahead and double click that. That will select all of the available fields in our table. And we're going to drag the highlight area to the field list to the design grid's first column field box, and then release the mouse. And after doing this, all of the fields should be added to our design grid. As you can see, first name, last name, parent, phone, city, and email address fields have all been added. Then we're going to put our criteria in for our city. We're going to put in Windsor, and then hit the Tab key. Now only the records with a city field value to Windsor will be selected once we run our query, and this should come out pretty obvious at this point. Let's go ahead and run our query. And the query record set shows us that the 10 records with the city field values of Windsor have been put into our query here. This should compare with figure 9-7 if you're following along in your e-text. Now that we have verified that the correct records are selected based on our query, we can then now change our query to a delete query. So let's go ahead and switch to Design View now. Once we're in Design View, we're going to go to the Design tab in the Query Type group. And you guessed it, we're going to click the Delete button. Query Type Delete. Make the query delete the information from an existing table where that data matches the criteria. So go ahead and click that now. And right away you should see a change again down here in our grid. So down here in the design grid you should see that the delete row is now present, and that replaces the sort and show rows. Let's go ahead and run our query now. And we're going to see the dialog box that pops up from Access that's going to warn us that we're about to delete 10 records. That's exactly what we want to do, so let's go ahead and click the Yes button. Now let's run our delete query. And the 10 records in the contact patient table are deleted. So you are about to delete 0 records. Once you click the yes, you cannot undo the command to reverse the changes. Are we sure? Of course we are. So we hit the yes button. Now we've done that, we're going to go ahead and save our query. And let's give it the name of Query Contact Patient Delete. Hit the OK button. Now let's close our query now that we've given it a name. And let's open up our contact patient table to verify that those records have truly been deleted. As you can see, we are down to 7 records, and that we no longer have any of our Windsor records available now that we've ran our delete query. So let's go ahead and that completes that section for deleting the delete query. And the next portion that we're going to complete is over adding the new contact comments field to the table contact patient table. So let's go ahead and we'll go look at those steps, and then we'll come back in and we'll switch to design view and add the new field. Now our customer wants to add a field named contact comments to our contact patient table, in which they can just keep notes about different calls they make. So we can add the field to the contact patient table without affecting any other objects in the health database. Because the table contact patient table was created as a temporary table only for our customer specific need to contact patients for specific reasons. So we're going to go ahead and add that field in there for them so that they can add those notes as they need to. So let's go ahead, and these are the 6 steps we're going to complete. We'll go through the 6 steps to add that new field in for our customer. Now that you're back into your database, go ahead and switch it to design view. Go ahead and click the field name box below the email address. We're going to type in contact comments. Press the tab key. We're going to type the letter L for long text. And we're going to press the tab key, and long text is selected. Now let's press the F6 key. That'll position the insertion point in the format property in our field properties pane down here. And we'll press the tab key and then type in contact comments in our caption box. Alright, so we've got that put in there now. So now we've completed adding our contact comments field to our table. And while we're here, we'll go ahead and add some caption values to a couple of our other field names. So let's go ahead and change those for, we're going to add first name in our first name field, and we're going to add the caption last name to the last name field, and then we're going to add the caption email address to the email address field. So let's go ahead and do that now. There's first name. Now let's do last name. And then lastly, we'll do email address. Now once you've got that added, let's go ahead and we are going to close the table and then close the navigation pane. That will complete those steps. Then we'll be moving into the last portion, or the next to last portion of session 9.1 for tutorial 9. That's to create the update query. Now, if you can recall from your reading, the update query changes select field values and records in one or more tables. Now we are going to go ahead and create the update query to update the contact comments field we just created in the contact patient table for records that contain an email address in the email address field. So here are the 9 steps we're going to be completing. Alright, now that we have those steps, let's go ahead and jump back into our database. Let's go up here and click on the Create tab. And then in our Queries group, we are going to click the Query Design. Then we're going to add our Contact Patient table. Let's go ahead and close our Show Table dialog box. Let's drag down this here to make sure we see all of our fields. Now we're going to select the email address and contact comments fields for the query results. Now the email address field lets you select records for patients that have an email address listed in this field. The contact comments field is the field that our customer wants to update. Alright, so let's double click email address and contact comments. Now you can see that those have been added to our design grid. Now let's click the email address criteria box here, and we're going to type is not null. And the reason that we are going to type in is not null is that the query will select a record only if there is a value in the email address field. In other words, if the field is not null. So go ahead and hit the tab key after you've put that in there. Now let's go ahead and run our query. And you can see that we have some records that have been given to us that verifies that each of those fields or each of those records has the email address in those fields, so they are not null. So now that we verified our query works, because we do have those 5 records of which the email addresses do have values. So let's go ahead and switch back to design view. And then in the design tab in the query types group, let's go ahead and click the update button. You'll notice down here in our design grid again that we now have the update to row, which replaced our sort and shows row earlier. Now you specify how you want to change a field value for the selected records by entering an expression in the field's update to box. An expression is a calculation resulting in a single value. You can type a simple expression directly in the update to box. So let's click on the contact comments update to box, and we're going to type, including your quotes, sent email in May, contact again in July, in quotes. Make sure you put in your quotation marks. Now that we've entered that, just so we can see everything, let's go ahead and grab this by the handles and drag that. Now we can see the whole expression that we created there. Let's go ahead and run our query. And the dialog box opens warning that you're about to update 5 rows in the contact patient table. Except we missed something here. Alright, that was odd. I just had to remove the quotes and put them back, and now it says I can update the record. So if you ran across that same error, which hopefully you didn't, all you need to do is remove your quotes and add them back. So once you get this dialog box, just go ahead and click yes. This will close the dialog box and then run the update query. The query updates the contact comments field values for patients who have an email address in the email address field. The query window is still displayed in design view. But we're finished with updating the contact patient table, so let's just go ahead and save the query as query contact patient update and then close our query. So go ahead and get your query name in there, query contact patient update. Once you've got that done, go ahead and hit OK and close the query. Then we'll move into the last part of session 9.1, and that is to view the updated table contact patient table. Let's look at those steps. Here are the last 3 steps that we're going to perform to complete session 9.1 of tutorial 9 here, and that's to view the updated table contact patient table. Alright, let's go ahead and jump back into our database and finish this part of tutorial 9 out. Alright, go ahead and open the navigation pane again, and let's open the table contact patient table. We're going to open this up in the datasheet view. And let's resize the contact comments column to best fit. You should see that you have all 7 records present here for all of those patients who have email addresses and they've been updated correctly. That's it for session 9.1. Go ahead and save your table datasheet changes, close the table, and then we'll go ahead and leave our database up and we'll move on to session 9.2 if you're continuing on into that section.